everyone, my name's Rebecca. I'm a fish biologist and ichthyologist and also a PhD student. I specialise in study the evolution of loyal cod catfishes. But today I'm actually going to talk about what I did for 6 years, which is I worked in the aquarium industry and stores from around 2015 to around 2021. I can never quite remember, but it means I kind of got experience. It's not that long in the industry, but I got experience with working, and I worked for 3 different companies, an independent that had only just start up, one with 4 different stores I think at the time, before it kind of broke down a little bit. And then I also worked for a chain, a lot of people call it a chain, but Maidenhead Aquatics is a little bit more diverse than that. So a lot of people just don't really understand about store staff, what it involves, and there's a lot of misconceptions. So one of the big misconceptions is kind of about the sort of level of knowledge and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, store staff are no different from general fish keepers. You'll get good, you'll get bad, you'll get knowledgeable and unknowledgeable. And you also get false confidence, and this is no different from social media. And you'll see this on websites, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok. So we can't really judge store staff for being how they are, because it's no different. You get the good and the bad, basically. So that's one of the main things, I think. I don't know why, because there's one thing that sets store staff apart from most fish keepers, is they're doing this job every day for like 5 days a week, maybe 7 days even. It depends on what you're doing. You might be doing stuff out of work in a way, but they're also doing stuff that you wouldn't normally do, such as importing. They're going to be going through lists and ordering things, and that takes a little bit of knowledge to know what you're ordering, and also understanding the industry to know what to import. Or it could just be dealing with wholesalers, it doesn't have to be import. Store staff also, they're not just about sales, they're not just about retail. These systems have to be maintained, the fishes have to be maintained, and the health of the fishes is important too. So there needs to be a level of knowledge of how to run these systems, how to clean the systems, and troubleshooting. So I learnt loads of very minor things, like how to deal with different pumps, how to wire a plug and stuff, because it's kind of really needed if you work in a store, especially if you can't get a plug past a really tight gap. But there's so many skills that are involved that a normal fish keeper wouldn't normally do, and it's also a level of understanding about the hobby that a normal fish keeper doesn't really need. And this doesn't mean that all store staff are amazingly knowledgeable about the whole thing. It just means that they can be, and it's really a chance to learn that little bit more if you want to. And not everyone does, or some people might just have their limit, or they might want to deal more with, I guess, beginners rather than going into more advanced fishes. And this kind of comes into the aspect of knowledge. Remember, stores deal with a lot of species, and usually not just one group. So stores might have other animals, they might have other exotics that need to be cared for. They might have not just freshwater, but they might have marines and ponds, which involves a whole wide range of knowledge. Which means that they're going to have different staff will be more specialised in different topics, and that's why honesty is so big. And I feel that customers actually don't promote honesty, because if you say this isn't really what my topic, I deal with this, then there's sometimes this assumption that you don't know anything about that whole the whole thing, at all. Or sometimes you get old-fashioned misconceptions, like someone will say, oh, I'm not really a marine keeper, I mostly focus on freshwater, and then the customer will think, oh, they don't know anything about fish keeping compared to the person that does marine, which is really common and it's really annoying. But it's kind of easier to specialise as a store, but not everyone can do it. It kind of pigeonholes a store a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's handling all those different species. So your store staff have a wide range of knowledge, but they can have more specialist knowledge in certain topics, and that can be really important. And there's some really brilliant specialist stores, and there's also really brilliant specialised staff. And many people that are named in the hobby did work in the industry at some point, maybe for one company, maybe for like loads of people worked for Maidenhead Aquatics during their time when they were working in the industry. So it is a big employer, and it does kind of, it's got a lot in like how fish keepers develop over time. So I hope that kind of bit kind of really covers the I know more than you meme, which is annoying but also usually wrong, because when you ask for what store staff said, it's usually actually not that bad compared to what I've heard or others have heard from customers, which I've kind of blanked out a lot of it. I don't know why I've forgotten. I think I've forgotten about some of the stuff you hear of customers, but that's because I haven't worked since, in the industry since 2021. But one of the other things is the one no one wants to talk about, and that's money. So one of the big ideas is that store staff want to sell you something so they make more money, and unless the store has commission, and not many do, then they're not going to make any extra money from your sale. What your sale could be is some stores don't have refusal policies, which I guess that's kind of an argument in itself. Sometimes it's just stress and hassle, because if you've got a customer that's arguing with you, it's a very different thing to actually sort of argue back and refuse them. So there's kind of that balance there, and this is why I think the industry is so stressful. Sometimes it is that balance between what the customer wants and what they is good for them. And a lot of people that have never worked in the industry, or maybe have worked for one store or something, will say, oh, but that's not, they should just refuse, it's not that difficult. Wait till you've worked in the industry, because a lot of these misconceptions come from people that have never worked in the industry. The other thing is, if you've only worked for one store, it's not quite the same as quite the same perspective really as for working for different stores over time. And that's more just a perspective of what different stores are like, rather than one store knows more than another, just because if you've worked for different companies it's very different. And there's kind of other things like, I guess, what products, and that's a whole complicated topic, but remember that aquarium stores are what supports the hobby. They provide the goods, the dry goods, they provide the fishes, they also are a place if you need help in person, they're there. If you've got a filter that's broken, their staff are normally more than happy to help out with it. Even if you didn't buy it in the store, they're more than happy to help troubleshoot. It can also be if you've got a health issue, you could go to the store. Some stores have microscopes. You could get a wide diversity of different people that are specialised in different topics within aquarium stores, so it's definitely worth just supporting them. They promote a lot of the products we see, and they promote development of products rather than the internet, which is very disconjointed. The internet sales as well. Stores can filter or give knowledge, make sure you understand what you're buying, whereas online that doesn't happen, or it doesn't usually happen. It just gets bought. So when you're like going online, it's maybe not always as good to support as actually going physically to a store. And don't forget how many people stores employ that later can become or they just provide knowledge, but it can also be that stepping stone into other aspects of aquarium industry, aquariums, like public aquariums. So we should support our stores more, and I think that's it anyway. So don't forget we have a Discord server if anyone's interested. It's so This is where we talk about anything scientific, anything fish keeping, anything fish biology, stuff like that. And also I have a TikTok if people are interested. Anyway, so I end this here. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, please comment, like and subscribe, and goodbye.